My name is Steven, and I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me a year ago that I still don't fully understand. I work as a foreman, and I'm married to Kathy. We have a 3-year-old daughter named Molly. That night, Kathy went to her friend Susan's birthday party, and I had to stay home with the baby. However, things were getting hectic at work, and the bosses were putting a lot of pressure on me. So I called my mother-in-law, Valerie, and asked if she could help with the baby. She immediately agreed. Valerie has always been a very compassionate person, and she never hesitates when we need her help, for which Katie and I are very grateful. I have to say that my mother-in-law is an amazing woman. She is 42 years old, but looks no older than 35. She was a dancer when she was young, and even now she keeps herself in great shape, slim and graceful, like a ballerina. Her commitment to staying active and healthy is admirable. It shows in the way she carries herself. I had never thought of her romantically. After all, she was my mother-in-law. But that night things took an unexpected turn. It was as if something had switched between us that I had in no way expected. I got home around 10 o'clock at night, exhausted. Katie was already home, but she was barely on her feet because she had too much to drink at the party. I sent her straight to bed. By then, Valerie had already put Molly to bed. She was about to leave, but I insisted she stay the night since it was getting late and there was no transportation. She hesitated for a moment, but then agreed, saying it was best, given the circumstances. I sat in the kitchen drinking tea and trying to relax after a long day. Valerie came in and sat down across from me. She said we both needed to de-stress considering how hard the day had been. I pulled a bottle of cognac from the cupboard, left over from last New Year's Eve, and sliced a lemon. We started drinking, and the tension slowly began to dissipate. We talked about work, family, and life in general. It was surprisingly easy for me to open up to her, and the more we talked, the more I felt a connection growing between us. Things were not smooth between her and her husband. My father-in-law was hardly ever home, always working or watching TV, giving her no attention or care. Valerie confessed to me that she often felt lonely and that she missed having someone to talk to and share her life with. After the third drink, I began to look at her differently. She was a beautiful woman with shining eyes, talking passionately while gesturing with her hands. At one point, I leaned closer to hear her better. She was telling me about her youth and her love of dancing, and her voice trembled slightly as she spoke of dreams she had once had. I don't remember how it happened, but I felt myself put my arm around her shoulders. I thought she would push me away, but she didn't. Instead, she snuggled up to me and her eyes met mine, which I had never seen before. I remember her scent, a light floral perfume, and the sensation of dizziness, whether from the brandy or from her proximity. That everything became a blur. I remember her hot lips whispering softly, "Stephen, be quiet." How we ended up in the guest bedroom, I have no idea. Valerie turned out to be incredibly passionate. There was no way I was expecting that. We tried to be quiet so as not to wake the whole house. Katie slept soundly in our bedroom, and Valerie and I spent the entire night together. Early in the morning, we finally fell into a heavy sleep, exhausted and stunned at what had just happened. I woke up to Katie's hungover face as she got up to shower. She was already in the kitchen making breakfast, just like any other day. I couldn't even look at her. I was racked with guilt. Valerie, on the other hand, was calm and greeted me with the usual, "Good morning, Stephen. Would you like some coffee?" Her composure was remarkable, as if nothing had happened. While I felt like my world had been turned upside down, I couldn't understand how she could be so calm after what we'd had done. This secret affair continued for another 2 months. Valerie would visit her granddaughter, and I would visit them on one pretext or another. Every time we were alone together, the tension between us was palpable. We were drawn to each other and couldn't resist. Kathy didn't suspect anything, and neither did my father-in-law, who was always at work, coming home late and going straight to bed. Valerie and I spent our time together, either in the kitchen or in the guest bedroom. It was risky, and I knew it, but the pull was too strong to ignore. But eventually, the passion between Valerie and me began to fade, and all that was left was an overpowering sense of guilt. I couldn't look at Kay. She was so trusting and kind. Every time she smiled at me, it was like a dagger in my heart. I began to realize that I was hurting her, even if she didn't know it. The weight of my actions became too much to bear, and I realized I had to put an end to it. I couldn't continue living a double life, deceiving the person who loved me the most. I put an end to it. Valerie understood everything and didn't fight back. She agreed that it was the right thing to do, and we both knew we couldn't continue down that path. We now live our lives as before. Sometimes at family parties we catch each other's eyes. There is an unspoken understanding between us, a shared secret that will always exist. Katie often wonders why I talk to her mother so little lately. I give her short answers because, really, what can I say? I can't tell her about what happened between us. I can't explain to her the guilt, regret, and confusion that still lingers in my mind. I still don't know if I regret what happened. Part of me feels guilty for betraying Katie, for crossing a line I should never have crossed. But another part of me can't forget the connection I felt with Valerie, the passion and intensity of the moments we shared. It was wrong, and I know that, but it was also real. And that's what I'll have to live with for the rest of my days.